compare what would go. I think we asked a lot about January 6th and the governor's press today again last night. Can you just clarify, do you believe the 2020 election results are valid?
Now, I'm just curious, how many more times you'd want me to say this beyond what I'm about to tell you? Because I'm pretty sure you look like a smart guy. You've heard me say this before. I have never once said that the 2020 election of Joe Biden was illegitimate. I didn't say it at any point ever. But the evolution for Kathy Hochul, who doesn't want to talk about crime, she wants to know why it's so important to me. She doesn't want to talk about her pay-to-play corruption. She doesn't want to engage in multiple debates across the state. She wants you, honestly, to be here asking me about the question you asked when, quite frankly, the rest of New Yorkers really want to hear us answer questions like what Ayanna did.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Down to the Polish media from New York. Two questions previous. First, how are you gonna, or some specifics, how are you gonna approach the crime in New York City, specifically working with the mayor as a governor? And second, to your second thing, there's a lot of issues in the school. What are your thoughts on how specifically you want to implement some changes to make things better than just obviously talking that does need help? Specifically, what do you think you're going to be able to change in those two aspects, crime and schools in the city of New York? Because obviously you're governor for New York State. City or working with mayor in the city?
Well, first off, I'll work with anyone to find common ground however possible. And I believe that the story that will be written in 2023 is how well a Governor Zeldin is working with a Mayor Adams to move this city forward. It's our job to find common ground however we can. Mayor Adams and I served together in the state Senate. We stayed in touch since. We've always gotten along. He was elected by the people of New York City to be their mayor. It's really important for New York City residents to see their elected officials working together. Does that mean that we're always going to agree on everything? Absolutely not. By the way, in this country, we're not expected to agree on everything. There are other countries where they demand that everyone agrees with each other. If I say something that Mayor Adams disagrees with, that's fine. And you know what? The next day we could sit down and still work on an issue to find common ground. So I'm confident that we'll be able to work together. Now, the state legislature really should come to the table and want to give judges discretionary dangerousness. By the way, that's something Mayor Adams has been calling for. We should amend raise the age. By the way, that's something that even Mayor Adams has also been calling for. So I believe that this shouldn't be looked at as a Republican versus Democrat issue. But what I've said is that on day one, right after I'm sworn into office, I will declare a crime emergency here in the state of New York, and I will suspend cashless bail and other pro-criminal laws to force the state legislature just to come to the table.
Right.
Now, Plan A would be for them to just come to the table, because us winning this election is a very clear statement of the will of the people, that they want to see these changes made as far as the direction of the state to make sure that our streets are safer again. On our website, zeldinfornewyork.com/securestreets, you'll see a couple dozen or so different specific proposals. And we've spoken a lot about our many, many different ideas that we believe would improve public safety here in the state. Now, as far as, as far as schools go, hours of the day, as far as which doors are open, what resources are needed to make sure that the person who's there responsible for securing a school actually has the training, the resources, the communication with others and local law enforcement. We have to improve the relationship between schools and local law enforcement. The sharing of information for the purpose of keeping a school safe. And by the way, school safety, people often like to just talk about guns. And that's okay, we should talk about it. But we should also be talking about other ways that our kids are facing violence and threats inside of schools. And they're facing it through bullying, they're facing it through knives, with hands, they're seeing it with drugs. So there's a lot that needs to be improved upon, because sometimes it's, You know, it's that 11th grader who's actually the one distributing the drugs to others in school. This shouldn't be some sanctuary inside of a school where you're not cracking down on what is a black and white crime. And I'd love to be able to work with the mayor and the Department of Education to address that. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier about how important it was for you to improve education in New York State, specifically test scores. How will you implement that? What is your plan to increase test scores to level the playing field, not just safety in schools?
So I'm a supporter of school choice. I went to public school. My daughters go to the same public school I went to. My mother's a retired public school teacher. My father's mother is a retired public school teacher. My father's father was a public school teacher. I want to lift public schools up. I'm not someone who is against non-public schools. And I feel like this state has been holding down non-public schools. And you have kids trapped in multi-generational poverty who need access to other options if they're trapped in a poor performing public school. Lifting the cap on charter schools, educational savings accounts, tax credits for school choice, making sure that these parents, regardless of race, ethnicity, wealth, zip code, it doesn't matter, every kid should have access to a quality education. I believe that competition is good. We have to make the diploma worth more. If you're going into 9th grade and 10th grade and you decide that you do not want to go to college, that's okay. When you view the high school diploma as solely a ticket to college, and you have decided that you will not go to college, these students are deciding that it doesn't make sense for them to go to school because the only reason to have a diploma is as a ticket to higher education. We need to have them viewing a diploma as a ticket to a good paying job. More technical education inside of schools, hands-on equipment, networking with trades. We need to make sure that these high school students view that high school diploma as a ticket to a good paying job the next day. This is just starting to scratch the surface on the many ways that we can improve education. And by the way, Mayor Adams comes in and he asks for mayoral control of local schools. And he got stonewalled and sandbagged for months. He had to beg for it. Don't play these political games, and he's a member of your own party. Forget the political games, do what's right for the kids and improving the quality of education. They should have done a 4-year extension of mayoral control the instant that he was sworn into office.
What is your stance on immigration and what is happening at Randall's Island and the buses that are still being sent not only to New York City but to New York State every day?
Yeah, buses and flights. There are people who are coming into, they've been coming to New York for a while, and New Yorkers want to know who's coming, where they're coming from, where they're going to. That's one. So as governor of the state of New York, providing that transparency is important. Two, is that if you had a great day today where the mayor, the governor of red states, blue states, everyone got 100% on the same page. They did absolutely everything in their power to solve this. The problem is it still can't be solved and will get worse the next day because you need the federal government doing more to secure our southern border. The governor needs to specifically call on President Biden. In my opinion, by the way, I'm only here speaking for myself on this. I believe that we should finish construction of the border wall, we should end catch and release, we should enforce the Remain in Mexico policy, we should support our Customs and Border Patrol agents, we shouldn't be incentivizing and rewarding illegal entry. It's my opinion.
God bless America!
It's my opinion. It's my opinion that we should be doing more to secure our southern border. I also believe strongly that if we don't, that even if you got every blue city, blue state, red state, elected on the same exact page, it's still going to get worse the next day. So as far as Mayor Adams goes, his hands are full. You know, in many respects, his hands are tied. I will say that as far as policies go, that there are policies from the city, state, and national level that I believe incentivize and reward illegal entry. For me personally, and I spoke about it last night, I do not support giving non-citizens the right to vote. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens were given the right to vote in a law that was recently overturned. I'm just giving that as one example and stating my opinion because I believe the voters deserve to know where I stand on everything before they vote, not afterwards. So from that respect, listen, if the city wants to look at some of its policies, if the state wants to look at its policies, if the federal government wants to look at its policies, we should always view it, whether we're talking education or whether we're talking about just people in government, and maybe you're trying to deal with the topic of immigration. We always should strive to do better. All of us. Anyone out there giving themselves a pat on the back saying we tried our best, there's nothing else to do here, I am more suspicious of you than anyone else. Listen.
Last question, everybody.
Getting back to Governor asking last night, why does this matter to you? What was your interpretation of the question in terms of her intentions behind it? What message was she trying to get to you? Well, strategically at a debate to ask you that. What was your understanding as to what she was asking you from her point of view?
Well, it was very clear what was happening. I was pressing the point that when you talk about cameras, care, and cops, she says the 3 C's, which, by the way, there's an announcement they pulled off his shelf 2.5 weeks before an election. She was never elected governor. She was elected lieutenant governor. She became governor to fill out the rest of Andrew Cuomo's term. That's why she's in this seat right now. And humbly, she should be aware of that. And instead, she's kind of acting like she's running for a 16th term. And that's an impression that a lot of New Yorkers have of her that they share with me. Upset that she refers to New Yorkers as her apostles. Upset that she's referred to herself as the mother of New York's 62 counties. That attitude. So she doesn't come in and actually crack down on this. Instead, she picks Brian Benjamin as her lieutenant governor, the champion of the defund the police movement up in Albany, the architect of cashless bail, who, by the way, ends up getting arrested and has to resign because of all sorts of other scandals. She waited till the end of the budget process to propose a minor change to cashless bail. Why did she do it then? And she didn't start it earlier? She should have. She could have put it in her executive budget. What she waited for was the middle of March. On Monday of that week, there was a bad poll that came out for her. On Wednesday, she dropped the first puck at Madison Square Garden at a Rangers game and got booed and roasted out of the arena. On Thursday, the media was reporting that Andrew Cuomo was thinking about running. So overnight on Thursday into Friday, she said, we need to make a change on cashless bail. She does this all based on political whim. She was celebrating when cashless bail got passed. It's still out there on her social media accounts from 2019, celebrating cashless bail like it was a good thing as is. So she waited too long, and she basically ended up getting rolled in the process. And strategically, she completely misplayed it as well by waiting until the last minute to even propose that week change. So I am pressing on the fact that we are going question after question after question after question from these moderators talking about fighting crime, and she's not talking about the 4th C, cuffs. And she decides that she's going to come after me, saying, I don't know why this is such a big deal to you. I mean, listen, if you want to talk from the most personal level, I had a drive-by gang-related shooting on my front yard 3 Sundays ago with my daughters at home doing homework. If you want to talk about why it's personal, we're here having a press conference on crime at gas stations where this morning one of these attendees had a crime take place at their own gas station as they're coming here. There was an assault here where we're having this press conference 3 weeks ago. It's happening here behind me a few times a week. And during this press conference, Mike's employee is getting threatened and starting what was almost a physical altercation in the middle of our press conference, despite all of us being here with cameras and with security. And Kathy Hochul wants to know, she doesn't understand why it's so important to me. That proves that she isn't in touch with the people. It proves that she does not represent the people, because it should be first and foremost in her mind. If she wants to represent New Yorkers, if she cares about New Yorkers, she would have her finger on the pulse, and she wouldn't have to make that point. She wouldn't even be thinking it in her head, let alone actually saying it out loud.
Next question right here.
Eshmeta, Just TV, Indian Media. Candidate Zeldin, what is your message to all of those Democrats in a historically blue state that were never vote for a Republican, but maybe not so thrilled with Governor Hochul's performance. What do you say to them on why they should vote for you?
Republicans, Democrats, and independents need to look at this opportunity less than 2 weeks away as their opportunity as New Yorkers to save New York City and save New York State. They have an opportunity to restore balance and common sense up in Albany. Everything has gone too far left up in Albany. There are a lot of common sense Democrats. Bob Holden is proud to be a common sense Democrat. And there are a lot of other Democrats out there who proudly view themselves as independent-minded. They're New Yorkers, first and foremost. They care about rising crime and skyrocketing costs. They care about being able to feed their family and heat their home. They care about soaring crime and DAs who release violent criminals to roam free on our streets. And these New Yorkers, first and foremost as New Yorkers, need to take control of their destiny, their family's destiny, their community's destiny, and do their part to save our state. Thank you, everybody.